Hi, Prodigal Teens. Pastor Chris here with another devotional for you on this great Saturday afternoon. Looking forward to looking at the Bible with you here. We are going to read the Great Commission finally. This is in Matthew chapter 28. I'm going to be starting right at the very end here in verse 16. So if you've got Bibles, grab them, jump there with me. As we've talked about over the last couple days, we like to think of the resurrection story as all happening on Sunday, that Jesus died, he rose again, he appeared to the disciples, and then he ascended up to heaven, all on Sunday. But that's not really the case, as we've seen. And so this is the final scene with Jesus on earth. He's going to ascend to heaven here in a second. And this is probably about 3 weeks after Resurrection Sunday, we think. All of those events we talked about the last 2 days happened during that time. And so about 3 weeks later, on a Sunday night, Jesus is going to rise back up into heaven. And so let's read this here, starting in verse 16. Then the 11 disciples went to Galilee, to the mountain where Jesus had said told them to go. When they saw him, they worshipped him, but some doubted. Then Jesus came to them and said, "All authority in heaven and on earth has been given to me. Therefore go and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit, and teaching them to obey everything I have commanded you. And surely I am with you until the very end of the age." All right. So this is Jesus' final proclamation on earth here. And it's interesting. The disciples go with Jesus to a mountain in Galilee, and they worship him there. They have this little worship session. That's pretty cool. But not all of them believe in what's happening. Some of them are actually still doubting Jesus to this day. And this is all we get to know about this doubt. And I always find it very interesting that still, even after all of these miracles he's done, after he's literally risen from the dead and appeared to them now like 3-4 times, some still don't believe in what's going on. And Jesus ends with the Great Commission, that all authority has been given to him, and now he's going to give it back to the disciples. And he tells them to make disciples of all nations, baptizing in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit, and teaching them to obey everything I have commanded you. Everything that Jesus has commanded us in the Gospels to believe, to do as followers, to care for the poor, to help the sick, to feed and clothe the needy, to visit those in prison, to care for the orphan and the widow. All of these things that Jesus has taught us is what he wants them to pass on to the rest of the world. And then he says, "And surely I am with you always until the very end of the age." The end of the age, of course, being when Jesus comes back and returns, and the kingdom work on earth here is done, and we'll be united with him for all eternity. And this is just a short little passage, but I think it's so important that when we look at this, we don't skip over Jesus' promise to us here. Because his promise is not, go do these things and you'll get to go to heaven, right? Go preach my gospel and you'll get to come to heaven with me one day. No, his promise is actually, go preach my gospel and I will be there with you in the midst of this. Go teach people to obey the commands I've given, and I will be there with you. See, we aren't always aware of it, but Jesus is with us when we do these kingdom-building things that we do. It's what he promised us in the Great Commission, and what a great and incredible promise that is, that he is with us through everything, even in the midst of this crazy situation in our country with this quarantine and all the insanity going on right now. Jesus is with us in the midst of all of that. I hope that brings you some comfort today. This was a shorter video today. I'm not going to do a video on Sunday. I will see you guys back on Monday here, and I look forward to talking with you then. Until then, a ciao.